Elvis Presley almost refused his greatest acting role. He starred in a Western with barely any singing that confronted racism head-on. The King grew a beard and didn't sing a single note on screen for one gritty film. He actually choreographed his most famous movie dance sequence himself, after playing a character convicted of manslaughter. He played an inner-city doctor tackling controversial social issues alongside a TV icon. Get ready to see the king of rock and roll like you've never seen him before. Number 8. He played a version of himself, but with way more drama, in Loving You. Okay, picture this. It's 1957. Elvis is exploding. He's the biggest thing on the planet. After a smaller part in Love Me Tender, Hollywood throws him into his first starring role, his first movie in Technicolor, the pressure immense, the movie Loving You. And yeah, the story sounds kind of familiar. A young delivery guy with an amazing voice, Deke Rivers, gets discovered by a shrewd publicist, Elizabeth Scott, and a country western bandleader, Wendell Corey, and skyrockets to fame. It mirrors Elvis's own lightning-fast rise. Easy peasy for Elvis to play himself right. Not so fast. While the surface plot echoed his reality, the character Deke Rivers was crafted with more dramatic edges than the charming public persona of Elvis. Deke was an orphan, carrying the weight of a past he didn't fully understand. This made him wary, easily provoked, and sometimes deeply unsure of himself, even as crowds screamed his name. He wasn't just the smiling kid with the magic hips. He was a young man struggling with sudden, overwhelming fame, manipulation by industry figures and the ghosts of his past. This required Elvis, still incredibly new to acting, to dig deeper than just showing up and being cool. Think about the scenes. He had moments of real conflict with Elizabeth Scott's character, Glenda, the ambitious manager pushing his career forward, sometimes ruthlessly. He had clashes with Wendell Corey's character, Tex, the more grounded band leader. He even had a fist fight. These weren't just opportunities to sing. They were scenes demanding emotional reactions: anger, confusion, vulnerability, defiance. Remember that scene where Deke gets overwhelmed by the press and fans, showing the deer in headlights panic of sudden stardom. That's more than just singing Teddy Bear. Plus, acting close to yourself can be surprisingly tricky. Where does the real person end and the character begin? Elvis had to navigate portraying emotions that might have felt very real. The pressures of fame, the distrust of handlers, while still hitting his marks and delivering lines convincingly opposite veteran actors like Scott and Corey. It was his first time carrying a major motion picture entirely on his shoulders. He had multiple songs to perform, integrated into the plot, requiring him to switch between dramatic intensity and musical performance energy. His own parents, Vernon and Gladys Presley, were actually extras in the audience during a performance scene. Imagine acting out dramatic conflict, knowing your folks are right there watching. The film aimed to capture the Elvis phenomenon, using his real-life, exploding fame as a backdrop. While it cemented his image as the singing heartthrob, Loving You demanded more from Elvis than just replicating his stage act. It was an early test, requiring him to inject dramatic conflict and emotional nuance into a character that could have easily been a cardboard cutout, setting the stage for more complex roles to come. It was a challenge disguised as playing himself. Number 7. He played a hilariously naive hillbilly against type in Follow That Dream. Elvis usually played the cool guy, the rebel, the charming singer who maybe got into a little trouble but always had that swagger. But in 1962's Follow That Dream, directed by Gordon Douglas, he flipped the script. He played Toby Quimper, part of a vagabond family led by his pop, Arthur O'Connell, who decides to homestead on a forgotten strip of state land along a Florida highway. Toby isn't cool or rebellious. He's incredibly naive. Almost childlike in his understanding of the world, yet possessing a strange, simple wisdom and an unexpected knowledge of the U.S. Constitution. This wasn't just a slight change of pace. It was a full-blown character role demanding comedic timing and the shedding of his usual suave persona. Toby Quimper speaks in a slow, deliberate drawl. He takes everything literally. He solves problems like dealing with gangsters who want their land or navigating bureaucracy with a disarming, almost accidental cleverness born from his pure simple-mindedness. He sings, yes, it's still an Elvis movie, but the songs often come from this unique character's perspective. He had to make Toby believable and, importantly, likable without making him seem stupid or turning him into a caricature. Think about the physical comedy. Toby often finds himself in awkward situations purely because he doesn't understand social cues or the implications of his actions. There's a scene involving him innocently trying to get a loan from a bank that relies heavily on his earnest cluelessness. He deals with pushy welfare workers, gangsters setting up a mobile casino next door, and even romantic advances from an adopted sister, Anne Helm, with the same wide-eyed lack of guile. Elvis had to play dumb, but in a smart way. It's a tough balancing act for any actor, let alone one known for being the epitome of cool. The challenge here wasn't dark drama, but comedic characterization. He had to suppress his natural charisma and adopt a completely different physicality and vocal pattern. He worked opposite seasoned character actors like Arthur O'Connell and Joanna Moore, who played the uptight social worker, Alicia Claypool. The humor came from Toby's reactions, or lack thereof, to the absurdity around him. Elvis had to convincingly portray someone who could quote constitutional law one minute and seem utterly baffled by basic human interactions the next. He couldn't rely on his smoldering good looks or rock and roll energy in the same way. Toby's appeal came from his innocence and inherent goodness. Hidden beneath that layer of naivete, Elvis had to make audiences believe in this oddball character, root for him and his unconventional family as they fight for their little patch of paradise against gangsters and government red tape. It required a lighter touch, precise timing, and a willingness to look goofy rather than glamorous. Follow That Dream showed Elvis could successfully tackle a quirky character role, proving he had more range than just the brooding hero or the happy-go-lucky singer. It was a gamble on playing against type, and a definite challenge to his established screen identity. Number 6. He became a brooding anti-hero who kills a guy in Jailhouse Rock. Jailhouse Rock, released in 1957, is probably one of Elvis's most iconic movies, largely thanks to that dance sequence. But beneath the unforgettable title song lies a surprisingly gritty and challenging role for the time, especially for America's biggest pop idol. Elvis plays Vince Everett. And let's be clear, Vince is not always a nice guy. He starts the movie as a construction worker with a serious temper. In a bar fight over a woman, Vince accidentally kills a man, Wham! Just like that, the movie kicks off with its hero convicted of manslaughter and sent to prison. Talk about a departure from the squeaky, clean image many wanted Elvis to have. Inside prison, Vince is initially sullen, bitter, and resistant. He learns guitar from his cellmate Hunk Houghton, Mickey Shaughnessy, a washed-up country singer who recognizes his talent. But even as Vince discovers music, his abrasive personality remains. He's suspicious, self-centered, and fiercely ambitious. When he gets out, he claws his way up the music industry ladder, often stepping on people, including Peggy Van Alden, Judy Tyler, a music promoter who believes in him, and Hunk, his former mentor. He becomes arrogant, difficult, and driven by fame and money. This wasn't the lovable rogue. This was often just a straight-up jerk. Playing an anti-hero, someone the audience might not always root for, was a significant challenge. Elvis had to portray Vince's less admirable qualities, his temper, his ambition, bordering on ruthlessness, his distrust, convincingly. He had scenes where he acted dismissively, even cruelly, towards characters who are trying to help him. Remember the scene where he forcefully kisses Peggy? It's jarring even today, and showed a character capable of aggressive, unpleasant behavior. Then there's the physical and performance challenge. The Jailhouse Rock production number itself is legendary. But here's a kicker. Elvis reportedly choreographed much of it himself. It wasn't just singing and looking cool, it was intricate, athletic, and visually stunning filmmaking, requiring intense rehearsal and precision. He had to embody the raw energy and frustration of Vince through that performance. Beyond that specific number, he had other performance scenes, Poutine Vince's burgeoning stardom, requiring him to blend the character's rough edges with electrifying stage presence. The film also touches on the darker side of the music business: exploitation, broken promises, the corrupting influence of fame. Vince's journey is a cautionary tale. While he finds some redemption towards the end after a potentially career-ending throat injury forces him to reevaluate his life, much of the movie requires Elvis to inhabit a character defined by anger, ambition, and social alienation. For 1957, having America's teen idol play a convicted killer who often behaved badly was a bold move. It demanded Elvis tap into a darker, more complex range of emotions than his previous roles and cemented his image as not just a singer, but a rebel figure, capable of portraying genuine grit. The tragic, real-life death of co-star Judy Tyler in a car crash just days after filming completed added a somber note to the film's legacy. Number 5. A tackled psychological drama, Charmed, by a famed playwright in Wild in the Country. Imagine Elvis Presley starring in a movie based on a novel by J.R. Salamanca, and with a screenplay worked on by none other than Clifford Odets, a giant of American theater known for serious character-driven dramas like Waiting for Lefty and Golden Boy. That's exactly what happened with 1961's Wild in the Country. This wasn't your typical Elvis musical romp. It was a full-blown melodrama aiming for psychological depth and literary pedigree. Elvis played Glenn Tyler, a troubled young man from a dysfunctional rural family, constantly getting into trouble with the law despite seemingly good intentions. He's basically labeled a delinquent. After yet another brawl, this time defending his brother, he's released to the custody of his uncle on probation and assigned mandatory counseling sessions with a beautiful, compassionate psychologist, Irene Sperry, played by Hope Lange. Glenn possesses a hidden talent and intelligence. He has a gift for writing. Irene tries to nurture this and encourage him to go to college, seeing the good person beneath the rebellious exterior. The challenge here was multi-layered. First, the material itself was heavy. Glenn is a complex character wrestling with inner demons, a bad reputation he can't shake, family issues including a possibly abusive father figure, and his own simmering resentment and confusion. He's prone to outbursts of violence, but also moments of surprising sensitivity and intelligence. Elvis had to portray this internal conflict, the struggle between Glenn's rough upbringing and his potential for a better life. This required nuanced acting, not just brooding glances. Second, he was working with serious dramatic material shaped by Odets. While Odets reportedly didn't finish the final script, credited to producer Jerry Wald, his influence aimed for a more profound character study than usual for Elvis. The film delves into themes of social prejudice, Glenn being judged by the small town, the power of redemption, frustrated ambition, and the complexities of human psychology. There are intense dialogue scenes, particularly between Glenn and Irene, exploring his past traumas and future hopes. Third, the romantic entanglements were more complex and controversial than usual. Glenn finds himself caught between three women: Irene, the professional counselor, who develops feelings for him; a taboo relationship, his childhood sweetheart Betty Lee, Millie Perkins, representing a simpler, perhaps safer path, and his seductive, troublemaking cousin Noreen, Tuesday Weld. The central relationship with Irene, the older married psychologist, pushed boundaries for an Elvis film and required him to portray a delicate mix of respect, admiration, burgeoning love, and confusion. While the studio insisted on adding several songs, reportedly against the wishes of Odets and director Philip Dunn, who wanted a straight drama, they often feel secondary to the dramatic plot. Elvis had to carry scenes that relied purely on his ability to convey Glenn's inner turmoil and vulnerability. He had moments of intense anger, quiet reflection, and emotional confession. Playing opposite established actors like Hope Lange and Tuesday Weld in such a psychologically charged story demanded a level of dramatic commitment beyond his usual fare. Wild in the Country was an ambitious attempt to position Elvis as a serious dramatic actor, tackling themes and character complexities rarely seen in his other movies. It was a significant stretch, forcing him to engage with more demanding material and a character defined by internal conflict rather than external action. Number 4, he played an inner-city doctor tackling social issues alongside Mary Tyler Moore in Change of Habit. By 1969, Elvis's typical movie formula was wearing thin even for him. He wanted something different, something relevant. Change of Habit was definitely different. In his final scripted feature film role, Elvis played Dr. John Carpenter, a young idealistic doctor running a free clinic in a rough inner-city neighborhood. His mission is to connect with the community and provide much-needed medical care. Sounds straightforward, right? But here's the twist. 3 young nuns, disguised in street clothes, are sent to assist him as part of a church outreach program. One of them is Sister Michelle Gallagher, played by none other than Mary Tyler Moore, already a huge TV star from The Dick Van Dyke Show. The challenges were immediate and numerous. First, the role itself. Elvis as a dedicated, socially conscious doctor. This wasn't about fast cars or fistfights, though there's a little bit of that. It was about empathy, professionalism, and dealing with real-world problems. Dr. Carpenter encounters patients from all walks of life, dealing with poverty, local gangsters, and various medical issues. He uses unconventional methods like rage reduction therapy, involving heating pillows, to connect with troubled patients. Elvis had to project intelligence, compassion, and quiet authority, a far cry from the singing rebel. Second, the subject matter was surprisingly topical, and, for an Elvis movie daring, the film touches on inner-city poverty, community relations. Autism. Dr. Carpenter treats a young girl exhibiting autistic behaviors, using then-current techniques like touch therapy and confrontational therapy, and even attempted sexual assault. The central plot involves the nuns trying to bridge the gap between the church and the distrustful community, facing prejudice and skepticism. These were serious social issues woven into the narrative, requiring a more grounded and realistic approach from the actors. Third, the dynamic with Mary Tyler Moore, Sister Michelle, while undercover, finds herself developing feelings for Dr. Carpenter and he for her. This creates a central conflict, her commitment to the church versus her growing love for a secular man doing good work. Their relationship is built on mutual respect and shared purpose, but complicated by her secret identity and vows. Elvis had to portray a believable developing romance with Moore, marked by sensitivity and restraint, culminating in a deeply uncertain ending where Sister Michelle must choose her path. Working opposite a beloved comedic actress in a primarily dramatic context added another layer of complexity. Fourth, the film tries to blend these serious themes with musical numbers. While some songs feel integrated, rubbernecking during a street party, others, like the psychedelic, have a happy, feel somewhat jarring against the backdrop of social realism. Elvis had to navigate these tonal shifts, playing a serious doctor one moment and leading a musical number the next. Change of Habit was a clear attempt to break the mold of Elvis's film career. It placed him in a contemporary setting, tackling relevant social issues and playing a professional character focused on helping others. He had to act opposite a major female star in a story centered on complex, emotional, and ethical dilemmas. The film required him to portray intelligence, sensitivity, and social awareness, presenting the mature, engaged version of Elvis rarely seen on screen. It was a bold, if not entirely seamless departure, and a definite challenge to expectations. Number 3. He grew a beard and didn't sing on screen. In the gritty western Chero. Forget the songs, forget the charm mostly, and forget the clean-shaven look. In 1969's Chero Elvis went for rugged and serious. This was a deliberate attempt to break free from his musical comedy image and reposition himself as a dramatic actor in the vein of Clint Eastwood, whose gritty spaghetti westerns were dominating the box office. The most shocking thing? Elvis's character, Jess Wade, does not sing a single song within the narrative of the film. The only Elvis vocal is the moody title track playing over the opening credits. That alone was a massive departure and a huge challenge to audience expectations. Elvis plays Jess Wade, a former outlaw, trying to go straight. He's lured to a Mexican town by a message from his ex-lover, Tracy, Ina Balin, only to find it's a trap set by his old gang, led by the menacing Vince Hackett, Victor French. The gang, including Vince's sadistic brother Billy Roy, Solomon Sturges, steals a valuable gold-plated cannon that was presented by Emperor Maximilian to the town as a symbol of victory over Juarez. They frame Jess for the theft. The rest of the movie sees Jess trying to clear his name, protect the townspeople, who initially distrust him, and stop his former associates from using the cannon to blackmail or destroy the town. The challenge started with the look. Elvis grew a beard for the role, a first for him on screen. He wore dusty, rough clothing. The aim was clearly to present a tougher, more weathered image. Then there was the character. Jess Wade is a man of few words, haunted by his past, skilled with a gun but reluctant to use it unless necessary. He's stoic, capable, and carries a world weariness. This required Elvis to rely on subtle expressions, body language, and quiet intensity rather than his usual charisma or musical numbers. He had to convey Jess's internal struggles and determination through presence and action, not dialogue or song. The film itself, directed by Charles Marquise Warren, a veteran Western director, aimed for a darker, more violent tone than Elvis's previous Westerns like Flaming Star. While perhaps not reaching the brutal levels of Italian Westerns, Charo features standoffs, threats, moments of cruelty, especially from Billy Roy, and a general sense of danger and betrayal. Jess Wade finds himself in morally gray situations, forced to confront his violent past to protect innocent people. He endures being roughed up and publicly shamed by the gang. Acting without the safety net of musical interludes placed all the focus on Elvis's dramatic performance. He had to carry the film as a traditional Western hero, albeit one with a checkered past. He shared scenes with strong character actors like Victor French and James Almanzar as the sheriff. The plot involved tension, suspense, and action sequences that relied on his physical presence and ability to project quiet menace or heroic resolve. Charo represented Elvis deliberately stepping outside his comfort zone. By ditching the songs and adopting a grizzled look, he was signaling a desire to be taken seriously as a dramatic actor in a popular, gritty genre. It demanded a performance built on minimalism and intensity, forcing him to use a different set of acting muscles entirely. While the film itself received mixed reactions, the role of Jess Wade stands out as one of Elvis's most significant attempts to radically challenge his own screen persona. Number 2. He confronted racism and didn't sing, almost, in the serious Western drama Flaming Star. Imagine Elvis Presley, the swivel-hipped king of rock and roll, starring in a serious Western drama directed by Don Siegel, who later directed Dirty Harry and Escape from Alcatraz, tackling the volatile issue of racial prejudice and singing only 2 minor songs right at the beginning, one reportedly added against Siegel's wishes. That was Flaming Star in 1960, and it was a radical departure. This wasn't a light-hearted romp. It was a stark, often tragic story that forced Elvis into one of his most demanding, dramatic roles. Elvis played Pacer Burton, a young man living on the Texas frontier in the post-Civil War era. His father, Sam, John McIntyre, is a white rancher, and his mother, Nettie, Dolores Del Rio, is a Kiowa woman. Pacer lives uneasily between 2 worlds, accepted by neither completely. When violence erupts between the local white settlers and the Kiowa tribe, the Burton family is caught in the crossfire. The white community distrusts them because of Nettie and Pacer's heritage, while the Kiowa expect Pacer to side with them due to his blood ties. Pacer is torn, loyal to both his parents and desperate for peace, but forced into brutal conflict. The central challenge for Elvis was portraying Pacer's intense internal and external conflict. This character wasn't charming or cool. He was tormented. He faces overt racism from the settlers and pressure from the Kiowa. He witnesses horrific violence and experiences deep personal loss. Pacer is forced to make impossible choices, and his journey is marked by anger, grief, and a growing sense of disillusionment. Elvis had to convey this turmoil largely through dramatic acting, as the film intentionally minimized the musical elements to maintain its serious tone. Siegel wanted a raw, realistic performance. Think about the weight of the themes: racism, identity, family loyalty, the brutality of conflict. Pacer is literally a man caught between two warring cultures, belonging fully to neither. Elvis had scenes demanding intense emotion: grief over family deaths, fury at prejudice, quiet despair at the escalating violence. He had physically demanding scenes involving fights and horseback riding in rugged terrain. He had to portray Pacer's transformation from a relatively peaceful young man into someone capable of violence when pushed to the brink. He acted alongside veteran actors like Dolores Del Rio, a legendary actress from Mexico, and John McIntyre, a respected character actor. Barbara Eden, years before I Dream of Jeannie, played his love interest whose family embodies the settler's prejudice. Holding his own dramatically in this company, within such a heavy narrative, required Elvis to dig deep. He reportedly took the role very seriously, eager to prove his acting abilities beyond the musical films his manager, Colonel Tom Parker, usually favored. The film doesn't shy away from tragedy. Characters die, and the ending is far from cheerful. Pacer's struggle highlights the destructive nature of hatred and the painful reality of being an outsider. For Elvis, whose audience was largely young and accustomed to seeing him triumph, playing a character facing such relentless prejudice and devastating loss was a significant risk. Flaming Star demanded a performance of quiet intensity, simmering anger, and profound sorrow. It remains one of his most critically respected performances, precisely because it toked his potential as a serious actor tackling difficult, socially relevant material, forcing him far outside the comfort zone of his usual screen roles. Number 1. The dark, gritty role he almost turned down became his masterpiece in King Creole. This is widely considered Elvis Presley's finest acting performance, the one film even his critics often point to as proof of his potential. But here's the kicker. He almost didn't make King Creole, 1958, at all. Elvis had already received his draft notice for the U.S. Army. It took a special 60-day deferment requested by the studio for him to complete the film before shipping off to Germany. And thank goodness he did, because the role of Danny Fisher was arguably the most complex, challenging, and dramatically rich character he ever played. Set against the atmospheric backdrop of the New Orleans French Quarter, King Creole tells the story of Danny Fisher, a troubled high school student, he later drops out, trying to support himself and his passively weak father, Dean Jagger. Danny is fundamentally decent, but quick-tempered, and keeps finding trouble. He gets involved with the wrong crowd, including shady nightclub owner Maxie Fields, played with chilling menace by Walter Matthau, and Maxie's vulnerable moll, Ronnie Carolyn Jones. At the same time, he finds a chance at redemption through singing at the King Creole nightclub, owned by the more honorable Charlie Legrand, Paul Stewart, and falls for the good girl, Nellie Dolores Hart. The challenge here was immense, starting with the source material. The film was based on Harold Robbins' novel, A Stone for Danny Fisher, a much darker and grittier story. While adapted for Elvis, the film retained a surprising amount of edge and moral ambiguity. Danny isn't just a misunderstood kid. He makes poor choices, gets drawn into the criminal underworld, faces genuine danger and struggles with his own temper and disillusionment. He gets into brutal fights, witnesses the seedier side of nightlife, and navigates complex relationships fraught with tension and potential betrayal. Elvis had to portray a wide range of emotions: youthful frustration, simmering anger, vulnerability, romantic yearning, defiance, and eventual determination. He had intense dramatic scenes opposite a stellar cast. His confrontations with Walter Matthau's villainous Maxie are electrifying, prodding a genuine dramatic spark. His scenes with Carolyn Jones as the tragic Ronnie are filled with pathos and a complex mix of attraction and pity. His relationship with his father required him to show both frustration and underlying loyalty. His moments with Dolores Hart's Nellie offered glimpses of hope and tenderness amidst the darkness. Furthermore, the film was directed by Michael Curtiz, the acclaimed director of classics like Casablanca and Mildred Pierce. Curtiz was known for being demanding and pushing his actors. He reportedly worked Elvis hard, treating him like a serious actor, not just a pop star. Elvis responded, delivering a performance that felt raw, committed, and deeply felt. He later cited Danny Fisher as his favorite role. Even the musical numbers, while Excellent Trouble, Hard-Headed Woman, Crawfish, are integrated into the narrative in a way that feels organic to Danny's journey and the smoky nightclub atmosphere. They aren't just tacked on. They often reveal character or advance the plot. Singing Trouble in Maxie Field's club isn't just a performance. It's an act of defiance. King Creole challenged Elvis to step up his game dramatically, like never before. He had to embody a character far more complex and flawed than any he had played previously or would play subsequently. He had to hold his own against formidable co-stars under the direction of a Hollywood legend. The film required him to explore darker themes of crime, poverty, and moral compromise within a richly atmospheric setting. It demanded nuance, intensity, and genuine emotional depth. The result was a performance praised by critics at the time and still regarded decades later as the pinnacle of his acting career, a testament to the challenge he embraced and impressively met.